Hello and welcome to Martyn Lucas Investor. My name is Sensei and you are tuned into the morning forecast show live every single trading morning, accompanying our own newsletter. And today is all about the ETFs, the ETF chaos going on. There is a Solana ETF launching today. There's a HBAR ETF launching today. There's a Litecoin ETF launching today. No XRP ETF, but I think we should still celebrate, but also understand why there's no XRP ETF and how these ETFs launched while there is a shutdown going on and what rule did they use to do this. It was very, very sneaky, but they managed to pull it off, which is great because ETFs are now launching. It is a historical day. We will look back on this day and this will be the day that altcoin ETFs started to trade on the US stock markets. It is a historic day. Please do hit the like button. Please do subscribe. Even though there's no XRP ETF, let's not get too down about that. The time will come for an XRP ETF. Actually, it might come a little bit later than expected because they haven't utilized the issuers of the XRP ETFs. Don't seem like they've utilized the same rules. But anyway, let me go into it and tell you exactly what's going on without all the fake news you see on X and all the stuff. Let's see if we can navigate this together. If you have just tuned in, it takes 1 second. You hit the like button. We'll love if you can do that. If you haven't subscribed already, please do subscribe as well. So Solana ETF today. Big news. Amazing. We haven't had an altcoin ETF since Ethereum, and that's been a while ago. So it's now the time for the altcoins to start going live. Solana, brilliant. Litecoin, good. I like Litecoin. It's a bit of a boring coin. Nothing really going on there. But HBAR is probably the most exciting one today. So HBAR ETF going live. And if you look at the crypto market, I think HBAR is the best performer right now. HBAR up 10% on this news. Was up a bit more earlier. But yeah, HBAR is up 10%. Litecoin's up a few percent. And Solana, I don't even see on the... Yeah, Solana's not really reacting, up 0.5%. So you can see it hasn't... this will be a good gauge to understand when that XRP ETF comes out. It's not going to be a 50% day. It's not going to be a 20% day. If we're in the peak of a bull market and we get it, well, that sentiment can push it up maybe 10, 20, 30, 40%. But if we're just trotting along... with an XRP ETF, I expect the day that the XRP ETF comes out, whether it's next week, which it probably won't be, or a couple of weeks down the line, it looks like it might just be a 10, 20% day for XRP. Nothing crazy like what some people on the internet are saying it will be. So let me go into this a little bit further, but firstly, let me welcome everyone into the show. Who do we have here with us? Ricardo was first. He'd managed to do it today. Ricardo, you are first. Welcome into the show. We've got MDL here as well. Every day, one of the first people here. Thank you, MDL. Do you consider becoming a member, MDL? You're always here. I'd love to answer all your questions. Jamie Reese says, good morning, guys. Here, good morning from Fort Lauderdale. Hoping that the folks in Jamaica are prepared to deal with Melissa. Is that a hurricane coming? I haven't actually seen that news of that. I hope everything's going to be okay there. Ricardo says, let's get ready to rumble. Jam says HBAR, yes, HBAR ETF today. Only if the SEC approved XRP on ETF yesterday. Nope, they have not. I should become a member, but that $2.99 looks good on HBAR. You can do what you like with your money, but if $2.99 is too much, I would say $2.99 on HBAR. Best case scenario, you might get $29 out of it if it 10x's. So it's not life-changing money. $2.99. One day I'll get gifted a membership. I hope so, MDL. Daddy says, good afternoon. Human Being says, hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and evening. Yes, we've got viewers all around the world. Josh Monroe's here. Good morning, everyone. This Daddy Will Survive says, Jamaica's man got plenty of joints wrapped up for the storm so they can stay mellow, mon. Daniel says, hi from Croatia. Jay Harrington says, hello. Human Being is... going to Croatia, it seems. William Myers says, good morning to everyone. David Hensley's here. Good afternoon. Good morning, Sensei, to all you awesome future millionaires. Yes. Human Being says, "Oh, nada, thanks." Now you all hit the like button. Yes, please do hit the like button. David Hensey says, "Can we all please share how? Can we all? Can we all please? How about Sensei and hit that like button for the show starts. Pretty pleased with a Bitcoin too. Thank you very much, David Hensey. Yes, please do hit that like button. Yolanda is here saying good afternoon, Sensei, and good morning. It's actually morning for me, Yolanda, because of the time change. So again, I apologize for all the timings. Some people might have the time exactly right. Some people, like in the UK, the show's a bit earlier. So a week from now, everything will go back to normal. Will be exactly on time, exactly when we're supposed to be live. But while there is this time change here in the UK that the US hasn't caught up with, it's all it's just that twice a year where everything goes a bit weird. But yeah, thank you for all bearing with us during this week. Let's hope XRP will be next. I am confident XRP will. By this time next month, if we don't have an XRP ETF, I'll be super shocked. It's going to be a tough one, but we'll get through it. We always do. Jamaica, no problem. I hope so. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. Highlander says HBAR going to pump. It is already pumping. Human Being says, "Oh, David, kind of you just to get me 20 euros. Few HBAR more. Not millionaire flair yet, but who knows." Sold my HBAR, gutted. I'm sorry that you did that, Nada. We've been bullish on HBAR here on the channel. It hasn't pumped that much anyway, though, so it's not really like 100% pump that you should be really disappointed. It might go up more, it probably will, but it's only 10% so far. And depending on where you sold, you might still be better off you sold. Paul D says, "Good morning, Sensei. I hope everyone's doing well. Hello, Croatia." I don't hear that often. Let me just go to members' comments so we can come on to the news. Congratulations to Hedera and Solana for getting approval for ETF. Yes, good morning from the UK. Good day, everyone from South Africa. Hello. Sounds like Nuclear should get a boost after reading the newsletter. Oh, Jamie Reese, you've been reading the newsletter. I love it. Yeah, it is an interesting story in the newsletter. Good morning, Casey. Philip Bradley, good morning from Halifax, Nova Scotia. Oh, God. Do I have to say this again? I'm not going to say it. I said this yesterday and everyone told me I pronounced it wrong. Sold it for XRP when it was low, says Nada. Thank you for that. Is it true that the XRP ETF delayed until 14th of November? There's not really a set date, but we will explore it in today's issue of the newsletter. I'm actually going to make a video out of it, so let me go over here. Let me go here and let's start. We'll make this as a video, but if you're watching live, of course, you get to see it first. This might come out today or tomorrow. Anyway, here we go. Let's start with the ETF video. Breaking news. We've got ETFs launching today. We've got Solana ETF, Litecoin ETF, HBAR ETF, but no XRP ETF. They weren't even supposed to launch these ETFs, but they found a sneaky way of launching and they utilized it. So let me go to today's issue of the newsletter. Every single day you get this newsletter, first link in the description. And let me explain to you how these ETFs are going live during a shutdown, because we weren't expecting any movement on ETFs during a government shutdown. But we've got 3 ETFs launching today on the 28th of October, and XRP is not one of them. So let's go through the newsletter. So as of today, US investors can gain direct regulated exposure to Solana, Litecoin, and HBAR via new spot ETFs. The launch includes Bitwise's Solana ETF, ticker symbol BSOL, Canary Litecoin ETF, ticker symbol LTC. Canary Hedera ETF, ticker symbol HBAR, and Grayscale Solana Trust, ticker GSOL, converting to an ETF on October the 29th. This development represents the first set of US-listed ETFs offering physical spot exposure to these altcoins without a formal approval announcement from the SEC. The mechanism that enabled this quiet approval is a technical rule under the Securities Act of 1933, which while widely overlooked, it allowed issuers to file amended registration statements that became effective by default 20 days after submission, even during a government shutdown. So let me explain that rule a bit further. But basically, if they filed under that rule and there was no basic objection in that 20 days, they will list automatically. And that's the rule that they utilized. And that's why we're getting a Solana Litecoin HBAR ETF. I'm not concerned we don't have any XRP ETF right now. I'll tell you when I think that'll happen. I'll tell you if any XRP ETFs have been filed with the same rule in a second. But we have to take a moment to appreciate that there is a Solana ETF coming out today. That's an altcoin ETF. So there's only ever been a Bitcoin and Ethereum. This is a spot ETF. So this is altcoins now being on the stock market, now being able to be put in tax efficient accounts. That's Solana, Litecoin, and even my favorite probably out of the bunch is HBAR that has launched today. And will be live in a few hours. If you're watching this as a video, it's probably already live as we speak. We're recording this in our morning forecast show live every single morning. If you haven't hit the like button, please do. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe as well. So, yeah, it's a historic day. This video will go down in history. It's the first time we've got altcoin ETFs on the stock market. So very, very, very exciting. Let's take a look at the boring part, which is how they managed to do this. So the legal mechanism, the rules 473B and Section 8A. Under standard ETF registration procedures, issuers include a delaying amendment in their Form S1 filing. This clause explicitly prevents the registration statement from going effective until the SEC declares it so. This is normal route used for most IPOs and ETF launches, ensuring the SEC staff have time to conduct a full review and issue comments or approval. So normally there is this clause that is in the documentation that says you can't go live without the SEC's go-ahead. But Rule 473B under the Securities Act provides an alternative. If an issuer removes the delaying amendment and replaces it with specific language invoking Section 8A, the S1 registration statement becomes effective automatically 20 days after filing, unless the SEC takes action to stop it. So essentially, the SEC has taken a break. Well, no, they're not taking a break. Well, the government shut down. They're not in the offices. They're on a very, very reduced working power at the moment. So essentially, the SEC is not there. These issuers have changed the wording and said, okay, let's see if the SEC will stop us. But there's no one in the SEC to stop them. So basically, they've got automatically approved because no one said anything in 20 days. The SEC at this point probably wouldn't have said anything anyway. They've made it clear that they are pro-crypto SEC. But essentially, there was no one there to stop it. So this is what they changed. They changed the wording, and we've got an example here. So the registration statement shall hereafter become effective in accordance with the provisions of Section 8A of the Securities Act 1993. So if you look at this first filing here, someone asked so they can revert the ETF once the government shutdown stops. No, they won't be able to. Technically speaking, yes, they can file criminal proceedings, but there's there's no reason for them to go ahead and go after them and unlist it. That's not going to happen. That was a question from our live chat saying, can they revert the ETF once the shutdown stops? Can they? Maybe, but will they? No, definitely not. So here is the statement highlighted up here. You can see that this was the initial way. This was dated September 26th. It was the registrant hereby amends this registration on such date. And then on October the 9th, they changed their wordings. They said this registration shall hereafter become effective in accordance with Section A of the Securities Act 1933. So you can see they took away that clause of the delaying amendment from their S1 filings. That's the delaying amendment that you normally put in, so the SEC takes time. They removed that. They filed again on the October the 9th. 20 days later, here we are, October the 28th. What's going to happen? On the 29th, so I think Grayscale is going live tomorrow. What's going to happen 20 days later is an ETF. and it's done. So this clause has always existed, but it was rarely used in ETF context. In this case, it became the workaround for launching these spot crypto ETFs amidst a federal shutdown when SEC staff are not actively reviewing or declaring filings effective. Very, very interesting stuff. So the timeline of the filings and effectiveness. The first movers was Canary Funds, which filed their amended S1s on October the 7th. So basically, they just filed again with an amended wording. So that the first one's still at Canary Funds for Litecoin and its HBAR ETFs. That's why we've got them going live today. The firm removed the delaying language, so you can see this language over here is what they normally use. That's the delaying language. They removed that part and they inserted the new language, which is the 473B clause. Based on the 20-day countdown, those ETFs became legally effective on October the 27th, with trading beginning today, October the 28th. Next was Bitwise, who submitted their amended S1 for Solana ETF on October the 8th. Grayscale filed its updated statement for the GSOL conversion on October the 9th. These dates align with effectiveness on October 28th and 29th, respectively. The timeline also confirms that the 20-day clock was properly observed and no further amendments were filed, which would reset the countdown under Rule 4738. So if they were going to amend anything, then the countdown starts again, but they didn't from that date that they did the main amendment to remove that wording, and they made no amendments, so they're going live today. So final regulatory steps, 8A filing and exchange listings. In addition to the S1 registration, ETFs must file Form 8A under the Securities Exchange Act of 1934. The document, this document registers the actual shares for trading on national exchanges such as New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ. According to official records and reporting, NASDAQ posted final listing circulars from Canary's LTC and HBAR's ETFs on October the 27th. The New York Stock Exchange certified the Form 8A filings for Bitwise's BSOL and Grayscale GSOL products, signaling the readiness to trade. So everything's in place. We're going to get them going live today. There's going to be another Solana one going live tomorrow. So this is a repost from Eric. We know Eric because he's the one from Bloomberg who's an ETF expert. That's his whole job, to look at ETFs. He's reposted this, and you can see this is what James said. Yes, we expect a Solana, Litecoin, and HBAR to get their first pure spot ETFs here in the US this week, as has been reported. But how did this happen? Almost certainly due to the language in guidance letters from the SEC Division of Corporate Finance, which became in the form of Q&A. The question number 11 out of 12 looked to be the critical detail, though honestly, it's not completely clear that this was meant for ETFs to my non-lawyer brain or eyes. Specifically talks about IPOs and securities, but ETFs are securities. Either way, the lawyers associated with Canary Funds, Bitwise, Grayscale, NASDAQ, and New York Stock Exchange obviously felt it was strong enough for them. So there was basic wording from the SEC that said that, from a Q&A part, that the question was, now that the shutdown is effective, can I file an amendment to current registration statement to remove delaying amendments so my registration statement will be effective in 20 days? So this was from the Q&A, and then the answer was simply omitting the delaying amendment from amendment will not begin the 20-day period. A company that intends to remove the delaying amendment must amend its registration statement to include the following language provided in Rule 473B. This registration shall hereafter become effective in accordance with provisions of S from Section 8A of the Securities Act. So from one little Q&A, this was something provided by the SEC. It was, if I want to get it, if I want to file something, can I just remove the wording and it could be effective in 20 days? The SEC said, no, you have to actually include new wording. And yes, it will be approved. So there you go. They utilize that, and the SEC can't really go back on what they said, can they? So the combination of an effective S1 and certified 8A fulfills the core legal requirements for a product to launch and trade on public markets. We'll come on to XRP in a second. So custody and pricing structure. Custody for the underlying digital assets is handled by BitGo and Coinbase Custody. Both of which are qualified custodians. Pricing will be sourced via CoinDesk indices, which are commonly used for daily net asset value calculations in digital asset products. This infrastructure mirrors the price spot crypto products such as the spot Bitcoin ETFs, ensuring operational continuity and regulatory defensibility, very much following spot price. And it's a spot ETF. So industry confirmation and public announcements. Here is what Eleanor Terrick said. This is sort of how the news broke. We all know who Eleanor Terrick was. She's was a reporter for Fox, and now she reports on crypto. So Canary Funds, Spot HBAR, and Litecoin ETFs are now effective and will start trading on Nasdaq tomorrow, in accordance to CEO Stephen McClurg. This is a tweet on X post from yesterday. This is the CEO saying Litecoin and Hedera are the next new token ETFs that go effective after Ethereum. McClurg told me in a statement, we look forward to launching tomorrow. Then, as confirmed by Eric and the New York Stock Exchange, has also certified 8A filings and posted listing notices for Bitwise Invest Spot Solana ETF to launch tomorrow, and Grayscale's GSOL to convert on Wednesday. So we've got another Grayscale. Remember, Grayscale has these massive funds, but they were never ETFs. They've always wanted to convert them into ETFs. Well, their Solana one's going to be converted tomorrow. So the question was always asked, how is this possible during government shutdown? Well, the operation of law does not actually require an open government. It's my understanding that the 8A filings were just as important as the S1 filings, getting these ETFs ready to launch. Essentially, a quick catch-up on terminology. The AA formally registers ETF shares under the 1934 Act for trading on an exchange, while the S1 registers them for Securities Act of 1933. This morning, New York Stock Exchange confirmed that 8A filings for the ETFs above, aka the final steps before shares can start trading. But what about SEC staff needing the green light for the S1 registration statements? Well, here's the key. The issuers included language in their amended S1s that let them automatically go effective 20 days after filing. Typically, issuers delay the S1s until the SEC takes them effective, but the legal default is that the S1s goes automatically effective without SEC intervention. That means that the agency does not need to approve them manually, and the filings can go live on their own, even during a shutdown. So the long story short, all legal boxes are checked and all these ETFs are on track for launch. So yeah, the main reason was, which she didn't explain there, is this Q&A from the SEC that says, can I still launch in a shutdown? And they said yes, but you just need to change your wording. Was this meant for crypto ETFs? Probably not. They were probably talking about maybe IPOs or other ETFs. But the lawyers from all these companies read this and said, well, it's talking about securities. An ETF is a security. We can launch this in accordance to this rule. Are the SEC going to be very happy about it? Maybe, maybe not, but there's nothing they can do about it. So these are launching today and tomorrow. So no formal SEC press release was issued regarding these ETF approvals. That's because under Section 8A, no active SEC intervention is required. The legal default is that after 20 days, the registration is effective unless the SEC acts to stop it. There was no one there to stop it. I find it quite funny, in all honesty. They couldn't stop it if they wanted to because there was no one working at the SEC. So if you are still watching, please hit the like button. Please do subscribe. I'm going to come on to XRP in a second. I'm going to come on to the ETFs and tell you if I think that it's going to create an altcoin season and we're going to go to the moon because of these altcoin ETFs. I'll come on to all of that in a second. So this sets a potentially important precedent. It shows that crypto ETF issuers, when confident in their filings, can rely on procedural law to move forward, even if the absence of the regulatory engagement. While this approach may not be viable in all contexts, it's now being executed across multiple products and issuers using consistent language and timing.
Tony Bogarts donated €9.50 through a super chat. End-phase earnings, please.
Thank you very much, Tony Bergens. We'll add it to the calendar. I'll see what we can do for you, Tony. Thank you very much for the super chat. While this approach, this approach may open the door to similar spot ETF filings in the future, particularly for altcoins not yet covered by approval products. However, each case will still depend on proper disclosure, market structure, and compliance with all other applicable rules. So now let's go over to XRP. So Eric did post this saying XRP peeps right now. Don't worry, you'll get your turn. So there's a little bit of optimism from Eric saying, and remember, Eric's the one who is a Bloomberg analyst who just focuses on ETFs. He says XRP will be coming soon. So the actual facts are that we don't have too much information. So several issuers, including Canary funds, have filed S1 amendments for spot XRP ETFs. Canary's October 10th filing references the option to invoke Section 8A of the Securities Act, but does not yet remove the delaying amendment or include the operational 473B clause required to start the 20-day countdown. As of now, it does seem like no XRP ETFs have triggered automatic effectiveness via the same mechanics used for Solana, Litecoin, or HBAR. I might be wrong, but from the research I've conducted, it does not seem like there is any other issuer that's for XRP that has removed that wording. So there doesn't look like there's any 20-day countdown clock for any XRP ETFs. Separately, the SEC has extended the review deadlines for XRP ETF filings, including those from CoinShares and 21 Shares. While no new SEC rule changes adopted in September may accelerate future approvals, there is no confirmed effective date for any XRP spot ETFs based on available filings. Launch is not imminent, but should proceed quickly if any issuers amends its registration to include the necessary 8A language. So unfortunately, we don't have a countdown. We can't say what day it's going to be released. From the research I've conducted, there is no one saying that there is a countdown effective. There is no one that I can find any issuers that have changed their wordings like the other issuers. But what I expect to happen is probably all issuers are now going to change their wording. So we might start seeing that 20-day countdown being effective this week. So yeah, and if the US shutdown does end in the next few weeks, then I've always said a week after the shutdown ends, we get an ETF. So in both cases, I imagine the wording will change this week, so we can start putting a 20-day countdown by the end of this week. So that will be putting us towards the end of November. And if the shutdown ends, let's say the second week of November, that will be the end of November as well. So my thoughts are this time next month, we will have an XRP ETF. So as of today, US exchanges are listing spot ETFs for 3 additional digital assets. The launches were enabled not by an SEC decision, but by strict adherence to existing securities laws, specifically automatic effective provisions under Rule 473B and Section 8A of the Securities Act. Key filings were made between October the 7th and 9th. Listings were confirmed on October the 27th. Trading begins 28th and 29th. Custody and pricing infrastructure is in place. The SEC, for its part, has neither blocked or commented on the process because it didn't need to. So that is how they managed to do it. You can see Solana is not really reacting. It's basically flat on the day. Litecoin is up 2.5%. HBAR is reacting the most, up 11.7%. My thoughts on ETFs in general, an ETF launching doesn't mean the market's going to pump straight away. You might get the launch pump, which you're seeing for 1 out of the 3, which is HBAR. You're seeing a 12% pump. On others, you're not seeing that initial pump. Oh, wow, we've got KC giving away 5 bronze memberships. Look at this. This is amazing. Thank you so much, KC. Make sure you are hitting the like button and subscribing and see if you can claim those memberships. Do thank KC for those free memberships. How amazing is that? So 1 out of 3 have pumped. So I wouldn't be betting on every time an ETF launches, you get that ETF launch pump. The only time you're going to get that pump is if you're in a euphoric cycle where everything's going up every day. Let's say that XRP is at $4. The markets are pumping, Bitcoin's at 150,000, and then you get that sudden information that there's an XRP ETF launching. That's when the retail investors and the momentum will push XRP up maybe another 20, 30, 40%. In most cases, it wouldn't push up that much. If we're just in a situation like this, we might get a 10% pump, just like we saw with HBAR. But that's not the point. The point is what it does for the long term. So when he saw that Bitcoin ETF launch, the market actually dumped. And then over the following months, when there was actually money flowing in, Bitcoin's price kept going up because most of that money was coming from these ETFs. So it just gives another way for hedge funds, pensions, retirement accounts, tax-efficient accounts to start buying XRP. So it's not a one-day thing where, okay, ETFs launch, we're going to take profits. It's about having another way that money flows into XRP, and over the long term and over a bull market, and if we are in a bull market and we continue the bull market, it just allows more money to flow into an XRP ETF. That XRP ETF has to hold that XRP, so that's XRP taken off exchanges, taken off the float, and that takes away from the supply. And in that case, that's why XRP's price goes up. So don't get confused about waiting for headlines about an XRP ETF launching and expecting a 50% pump in the day. It's not about that. Unless you're in a really hype cycle and everyone's very excited and you get that news and that just pumps it up a bit more. Most realistically, it just slowly but surely adds more money and you get more and more inflows from people buying the XRP ETF. If we're in a bear market, it won't really have much effect. The price will probably go down, but when we enter another bull market, then you have that extra vehicle to invest in XRP, and that's why the bull market will be stronger next time round. If we still continue with this bull market, which we might do, coming up until the end of the year, the stock market's looking good. Let's see how the Mag 7 react on earnings and what Jerome Powell says in the FOMC meeting. But if the bull market continues and we have an XRP ETF, then we can really start targeting that $5 to $10 range for the bull market top for XRP, because there is that additional way to invest in XRP. So I hope that helps. There'll be 2 videos up here. There'll be the newsletter for you guys to check out over here. First in the description. Please do hit the like button, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the FOMC and the earnings this week. But until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. So that will be coming out as a video later. Casey says, I want to see if you guys have any questions at all. I'll hopefully be able to answer them. Casey gave away 5 memberships. Thank you very much. 31-1. So did Apocalypse Now, David, Lufiel, and the Baseball Babe have all won a membership from Casey. Please do thank Casey for your memberships. Human Beings loves it. Source of Space says, if you look at the 3-month or whatever on cryptos, it's just sideways and down. Looks like just before the dump last time. I'm thinking it's going to go up though. Yeah, we just have to wait to see if we put in a higher high, and if we don't this time around, if XRP doesn't break $3, then this could be the start of the bear market. Yes, definitely. But yeah, it's, as I've said, we're at that point where we don't have enough information in front of us to say if we are going to continue the bull market or not. I'm still fully invested, because if we do go into bull market, the risk to reward for me is fine. And if we go into bear market, I will just buy more. And most of my crypto, I'll be much more worried if I had 50% of my portfolio in Binky Bonk and random coins, because I wouldn't know if they'll come back next cycle. Most of my portfolio is in XRP. I'm very confident in XRP. Again, not financial advice. I'm a man on YouTube, didn't refresh when it went live, playing on 2x speed now. Oh, sorry, Jamie Reese. Thanks for the gift. Thanking Casey. Let's go through, see if any of you were reacting to this story. The powers that shouldn't be let XRP go down for a bit for their own reasons with their algo. The only way to overcome their demonic algos is a monster wave of buys. I don't know what you mean by that. Jay Harrington says it's probably a pullback a little to fill their fair value gap anyway. HBAR is still super to buy, in my opinion, but I'm expecting a little pullback. Just be patient. Yes, all about patience. I'm just going to answer members' questions for now. Patience is key. We've got some massive catalysts coming in the next few weeks and months. Stay out of the noise. Know what you hold. Exactly, JJ 8-ball. They are free to do what they want, let's say. Yes. Nada says, so no, they can't do that. SPY keeps going up. Yeah, the S&P 500 keeps going up. I'm very, very happy about that. David says, XRP attorneys should have been smart as the attorneys that filed for this specific language as the other. XRP attorneys should have been as smart as the attorneys that filed that specific language as the others. Yeah, but it's not the XRP attorneys. Remember, XRP has no attorneys. XRP is a coin. It's the people that have filed these ETFs. So whether it's 21 Shares, Canary, and the weird thing is it's the same lawyers. I mean, Canary has an XRP ETF on standby, but they only did it for a couple of the ETFs, which is weird. Maybe they'll see if it works or not, and it did work. So maybe now they'll apply it to their XRP ETF. XRP just swing trader like taking candy from a baby, saying songs for space. Nick the Beluga says hello. Bounce back. David Hensley says, glad you made it to channel all the way from the Philippines. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. Thank you for welcoming them in, David Hensley. Bounce back says, so when the SEC opens up and can it shut down? No, I don't think they will. I don't think there's any chance they'll do that. Songs for Space says, why is BNB crypto so good? Just seen it on Hode. Wow, that's a chart. It's not. I don't like it. It is a third, fourth largest crypto. I've never liked it. I don't think it's good. I've swung trade it, but I don't even. Yeah, I don't. Sometimes there's not a rational explanation for these things. Jamie Reese says, I think Sensei might be running late because he's trying to catch all the ladybugs before he starts to stream. No, we're here. Not trying to. It's this time change, so I have to wake up earlier to do the whole newsletter because I'm basically live an hour earlier than I normally am. I know it might not seem it for the US audience, but we are going live an hour earlier so we can try and keep the timings the same for the majority of our audience. But a week from now, everything's sort of back to normal. When do the US clocks go back? Is it this coming weekend? I think it is. So you get an extra hour's sleep. Bounce Back says, is HBAR going to keep going up? It might. I think if the Mag 7 earnings goes well and the Jerome Powell speech goes well tomorrow, then there's no reason for it to not. David Hensley says, let me just see, just talking to Vaz behind the scenes, because he's setting up some earnings for you guys. So I'm just speaking to Vaz behind the scenes. Yeah. Human Being says, who is waiting still for a dip on XRP? Feel free to answer. I'm kind of waiting, but I'm afraid it won't. I'm always ready for a dip. Always ready for a dip. David Hensley says, nobody knows what the answer is. The best thing you can do is your research and make the best educated guess you can. Exactly. Bogards has asked for end phase earnings. So yes, we will provide the end phase earnings for you tonight. There is 2 parts in the newsletter today about end phase. The chart of the day, go check it out. And also there's one of the stories is about end phase. So you can check both of them out to get prepared for the earnings. If you don't have the newsletter, the link is here. Thanks, David. Songs for Space says, imagine paying 700 a share for SPY. Yeah, it's quite expensive now, isn't it? Nothing wrong with buying it at these levels, though, if you're holding long term. Let me just bring this to everyone's attention, which is the earnings calendar for this week. We'll give it a refresh and make sure everything is up to date. If anyone wants earnings tomorrow and the next day, it's the big earnings coming up. We can cover it for you. Tomorrow in the morning, there's CAT, but it's more interesting in the evening. After close, we have Microsoft, Meta, Google, Starbucks, Chipotle, eBay, Coke, all of these earnings, Wolfspeed. You can do a $10 super chat. It's first come, first serve. If you're more invested in Meta, Microsoft, Google, or if you're just invested in the general markets, we can do these earnings for you. We'll cover the whole earnings event. We'll have the analysis beforehand. We'll analyze it after. You can just do a $10 super chat and specify which one you want to see. On Thursday, pre-market, we've got MasterCard, Lily. What else do we have? Shell. But again, more interesting after the close. Amazon, Apple, Coinbase, MicroStrategy, Reddit, Roku. What else do we have? GoDaddy, Riot, blockchain. That's all about Bitcoin. So yeah, you can also start doing you can do a super chat for any of these and we'll cover it. Remember, it's first come, first serve. And that's all for this week. So if you do want to cover any of them, you can do so by doing a super chat. So David Hensley says, for sure, bro. I know it's the one answer we don't want to hear, but we don't BS you on this channel. Yes, we don't. David Hensley, thank you. Songs for Space says, I'm losing my mind here. Every time I look at stocks, I'm angry and outstandard. So I guess hating missing out more than being ref. Red. Okay, well, that's an important lesson you've learned, Songs for Space, and you can understand this now. So in the future, you don't want to make the same. So you don't make the same mistake again. As I've always said, being invested is better than trying to time the market and sell and finding time to get back in. Always being invested is great. The way you can sort of be ready for a crash, or if you think the crash is coming, is just still being invested, maybe selling 10%, 20% if you really want to sell, but start accumulating cash on the side. Start, instead of investing any more money, start accumulating it on the side. Again, there is a risk to that. The markets might keep going up and you've just got cash sat on the side, but at least that way you're still invested in the market and you're building a fund up that you can invest if it goes down. I never like being out the market. That's why I'm happier to hold XRP through a bull market, for a bear market, than I am to sell when there's a 50% chance. If I think the markets are going to crash 80% and I've got a 20% chance that I think it's not, then I'll probably sell most of my position. But if I'm 50-50, I'm going to be in the market. Human Being says you need to chill out intro music for Don't Be Angry. Songs to Spit, you need the chill out music from the intro. I apologize for not sounding too well. I don't know why, I'm still not recovering from this illness. Songs for Spaces, if you look at the 3-month or whatever on crypto, yeah, I read that one. David Hensey says, you rock, you're awesome, woman. Thank you for giving out all those memberships. Yes, thank you, KC. My pleasure. It's a good day for a great day. I love it. Jamie Reese says, oh my man, YouTube didn't refresh. You're playing on 2x. Thanks for the gift. I'm asking for a friend. How to get a free membership? Sometimes people give away memberships, and then as long as you're engaged in the channel and you're live and you're chatting, you'll have a chance to get it. But if you want to get a membership, you can also just click this link and get a membership. Bitcoin looking good. Anyway, you can look at BNB. Seems like a super strong chart. I don't like looking at BNB. It is a strong chart. You don't bet against it, but Binance, I can't get behind them with all the manipulation they've got going on. Clocks never change here in AZ. Arizona? Where's AZ? AZ state. Yeah, Arizona. The clocks never change in Arizona. Yeah. Clocks do not change in Arizona with the exception of Navajo Nation, because the state has opted out of daylight savings. The rest of the state observes Mountain Standard Time all year round. Very interesting. But I guess that means the time of the show does change. Even though it doesn't change for you, it changes for everyone else. That's confusing. Thank you, Casey. Gold shorts have been doing well. Yeah. Do you think gold will continue to drop? Yeah, I think it will drop. It'll continue to drop until it finds a base, accumulate, then go on its next leg up. I've always said the level was was it 4,000? Let me have a look at the gold chart. Let's have a look at gold. Oh yeah, we're below 4,000. 3,730 is the level that I'm prepared for. That's the level that I expect quite a big bounce. Or if we don't, we might try and get back above 4,000. But yeah, we were expecting this drop. It's just a matter of how far we will drop, where we find the base, and if it's going to accumulate and continue going up. I think, as I've said many times, the main gains of this year for gold have been done. Next year, can we push to 10,000? Yeah, we can, but we'll take it one step at a time. 4,700, 5,000. I'm still bullish on gold for the next couple of years, but we're just waiting to find a base, whether that's 3,700 or we bounce back above 4,000 in the coming days. I don't think we will go into a full-on bear market for gold yet. Hello, Vaz. Hey, Vaz. Ev tells kills me. Being out the market gives me a terrible feeling. The patch says, good morning. And Vaz says, I'm live later today with a daily EVTOL update. Oh, that's going to be very exciting. Vaz is going to be doing an update on EVTOLs, then and earnings as well. SoFi beat on earnings posted on Robinhood. Let's see what SoFi is doing on the chart. SoFi is up 3.7% pre-market, all-time highs on SoFi. Congratulations, SoFi holders. It's always, let me see if I can add this on the chart down here. If I put Bloomberg on down here. What's going on in Bloomberg?
Trades across Europe.
We'll debate the most important story.
Nothing yet. First couple of weeks to remember the time. It's always challenging the first couple of weeks to remember the time difference with the rest of the world. Yes, I thought so. There'll be a difference. It still has an effect on you. I hope I'm home. You set the time yet? Yes, Casey. I don't know if Vaz has set the time yet. It's normally around the closing bell time. 6 months we're on PS. It'll probably be before closing bell time, and then when that show ends, we'll probably go to the earnings at around closing bell. So maybe half an hour before closing bell, I would imagine Vaz will be going live. But you can keep an eye on the channel. 6 months we're on PST. 6 months we're on MST. Oh, I didn't know it was Binance. Yeah, I forget. Criminal enterprise. David Hensley says, Sensei, I don't know what they are, but there's several states in the United States that don't do the time changes. AZ obviously being one of them. Yeah, I didn't realize this. Probably an hour before closing bell, give or take 30 minutes. Probably an hour before closing. Oh, yeah. Me and Vaz are in sync. Solana goes down. Interesting. Thanks, Vaz. DVTL up nicely so far today. The time change is stupid considering it was put in place for farmers. Big aggro that took over. I don't think it was put in place for farmers. I think that's a myth. I think that is a myth. Why is there daylight savings time? Implemented during the World War I to conserve energy and increase productivity by reducing need for electric lighting, while modern views are mixed potential benefit. Yeah. Energy conservation, increased productivity. It wasn't for the farmers. Sensei, just wondering, are you in the US or somewhere else? I'm here in the UK. Not a myth, says 1917 A. Buckley. I've just searched it online. What do you mean it's not a myth? It says it's a myth. It was for energy conservation, increased productivity. From nothing about farmers. World War I to conserve fuel. It's a myth, guys. What's going on? I do watch. I wasn't passed down generational knowledge to be told not. Sorry, guys. I hate to break the news, but the reason for the daylight savings is not because of the farmers. It was to do with conserving fuel during World War One. Nothing to do with the farmers. Apparently, the farmers were against the idea. Yeah, apparently the farmers were against the idea. Google is lying to you, Sensei. It's not. So why does everyone think? No, it's a myth. It's a myth. If you're closer to the equator, it probably doesn't make much sense for you to change the time. Next thing you know, they'll make less hours in a day to pay less per day. Here we go. We've got some news coming from Bloomberg.
The number they come up with for the 4 weeks ending October 11th, so this would be a week delayed, is 14,250, which would suggest very sluggish hiring, although that includes 2 weeks of September. So we have to wait till they get farther along to get a monthly picture for October. But it would justify where the Fed is, at least according to the Fed, worrying about the idea of employment and what that means for the economy. So we do expect a 25 basis point rate cut tomorrow. That's kind of been baked into the markets. So then the question becomes, do we get a lot of dissents? And if you're looking for dissents, you could have them on both sides, to cut more or to hold. We're looking for any guidance for what they might do in December, although that's going to be a tough order for Jerome Powell because they don't know. They don't have the data right now. So I don't think you can bet on a December rate cut necessarily. And then what's the future of QT? This is something that has come up in the last couple of weeks, especially last week when Chair Powell mentioned it in his speech that they're coming to the end. The total size of the balance sheet has shrunk significantly, although it's never going back to where it was before the pandemic, in part because that's the balance sheet and it includes currency and things like that. Total Treasury securities now below $3 billion. The future of QT is a debate on Wall Street, and we're getting people on both sides. The Bank of America folks representing a number of the Wall Street firms say there's a very small echo of 2019 in what we're seeing now in money markets. The Fed overdrained cash and likely knows it. In other words, they've got to stop now because we're going to start to see a 2019 reaction in the money markets.
Yeah, covering FOMC and the Fed decision tomorrow. That'll be a big one, so I hope everyone can tune in tomorrow. Everyone's going on about this daylight savings debate. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but it's all a myth about farmers. I thought it was so kids can go to school in daylight. That's another myth. That's not correct. Songs for Space says that's Trump's next thing. Less hours of fuel in the day is too many hours. How does the time of day affect fuel, though? Well, because if you've got more daylight in the day, if you've got more daylight, if more of the day is in daylight, you don't have to use lights and power. More of the day is in daylight, you don't have to use electricity, or as much as electricity. So there you go. I feel cheated. Education has failed me. We were taught that in school. Sorry, 1978 Buckley. Need to go. Catch you in the afternoon with the M-Phase earnings. Yes, thank you, Vaz. We'll see you later. Here in Europe, they always tell us saving energy. The whole life we hear them. Yeah, it's all about saving energy here in the UK.
We also hear from business, we may be belt tightening, but we're not firing significantly either. And so the reason the unemployment rate's not going up is because supply of labor is flat to down. And that's so far what the data says and what anecdotes say. I think it would be helpful to the Fed to start getting more of the formal data just to reinforce their views, particularly as they get closer to neutral. If you're above neutral, if you're still restrictive, it gets more of an urgent need as you get closer to neutral, which I think neutral is in the range of 3.5, 3 3/4. They're getting closer.
You think we're pretty close based on that estimate?
I do.
There's a range of estimates on the FOMC. There always is. What's interesting to me is to see this step down in payrolls growth without seeing that real step up in unemployment. Do you think there's evidence that slack has increased? And how would you anchor your view around the labour market right now? On payrolls or around a pretty stable unemployment rate?
So here's what we're seeing out there. College graduates are having a hard time finding jobs. Hiring is less. However, also talk to businesses, construction and other industries where they've got a large number of unfilled positions. So there's a mismatch issue. So the part I think I'd be trying to figure out from my former job, is this a cyclical slowing or is a lot of this a matching issue that over the next year or two will get fixed by better matching? And right now, I think the jury's out. It looks like some cyclical slowing. That's why the Fed is cutting. But I think there's a point at which they're going to need to keep retesting that thesis.
Based on your estimate of neutral, it implies that you don't think we're that restrictive right now, and therefore
that's right.
It would suggest that you don't think much of this is cyclical.
Yeah, and the reason, by the way, for the debate about neutral, again, when most people say the long-run neutral rate is 2 3/4, they're assuming a 2% inflation rate. But inflation is not 2% right now. It's 2 3/4 to 3. I still think the real Fed funds rate that's neutral is about 3/4, and that's why I say 3.5, 3 3/4. The issue is if inflation is still 7,500 basis points over target, you want to really scrutinize what's going on in the labor market, because do you really want to get to neutral?
There we go. Everyone's going to have the debate forever. What is the neutral rate? No one really knows, and what we're focusing on is a few cuts to come. This is Goldman Sachs saying maybe another 3 cuts, or maybe just another 2 cuts, and we're there. So we'll see. That's going to be the debate going forward. We're going to be covering the FOMC tomorrow. We're going to be covering the Fed interest rate decision tomorrow. Do tune in tomorrow. This stream will automatically take you there, so you can go there and put your notification on for tomorrow. It's going to be a very, very volatile day. Go check out the newsletter today, especially if you're an investor in M-Phase, because you've got the M-Phase as one of the key stories. And the chart of the day, we've got stories on the big tech earnings coming up. We've got stories on the nuclear power. We've got stories on Amazon cutting jobs and Trump in Japan. So go check it out. There is the newsletter link. Vaz will be back later today with his EVTOL show plus, or EVTOL show plus the end phase earnings. I'll be back tomorrow with a whole day of FOMC. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope that news about XRP clears things up for you. If you have to tune in, if you go back towards the beginning of the show, I'd give you a full explanation on what's going on with these ETFs. But until next time, it was great to be back. Tomorrow's going to be a big day. We're going to be live for a while, so tune in tomorrow. But until tomorrow, do you think the Fed will hold back rate cut because of government shutdown? Says Casey. No, I don't think so. I'm very, very, very confident there'll be a 25 basis point cut, and they've got enough data to go off. But if the shutdown went on for, let's say, a couple months, then if they're not getting the data, they might not want to cut. But they will definitely cut 25 basis points, in my opinion. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you all tomorrow. Until next time. The video will take you directly to FOMC tomorrow. Click on the like button, leave a comment, press the notify button, and I'll see you tomorrow. Look out for Vaz today around closing bell time, or just before the closing bell time. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Bye-bye.